Alright, so today I want to take a few moments to talk about the SOG Zoom. You'll see in the middle, on the right we have the Visionary 1, and on the left we have the original Trident. Now, before we get started, I'll go over some specifications. The overall length is 8.3 inches, closed length is 4.7 inches, and the weight is 4.4 ounces. Now, also I want to mention that I think it's pretty cool that SOG gives a nod to Flash comics by naming some of their knives Flash, Flashback, Flash 2, and this one, of course, being Zoom. And the name is very fitting, as you'll see in a second. This assisted opening knife, to my best estimation, is actually built on an automatic knife platform. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, if you look closely here on the pivot, you'll see that it's a coil spring, just like you'll see on an automatic knife, and the only difference is the push button here has been disabled, and they've added thumb studs here. Now I'm going to show you, watch closely, I don't really have to push the thumb stud out very far at all before it kicks in. I'm going to do it again, and then I'm going to show you just how different that is compared to the Trident. Barely anything at all before the spring kicks in. You see that? Look how far I am out, and the spring still hasn't kicked in. It's about to kick in, and there it is. So the Zoom is both faster and stronger and actuates sooner. Now I'll try to do them both on screen at the same time. I didn't exactly get the blade in full focus. Let's see if I can pull. Here we go. It snaps out first every time. 50% of the time, it works every time. Now, some other things that I want to talk about, I haven't seen mentioned really in any other videos. I've seen the speed mentioned and the spring mentioned. Also, I want to note how easily it closes. There's not a whole lot of tension at all going back, and that is so surprising because the spring is so strong. But when you close it, it's not difficult at all. Now, this one here is a weaker spring by all estimations, except when you go to close it, there is a lot more tension here. Alright, another thing I want to talk about is some hot spots you're going to find on this knife. And it amazes me how many people don't mention this, but these pillars here that are cut out for the thumb stud, while they're excellent for getting a hold of the thumb stud to deploy the knife, they are terrible for ergonomics when actually using the knife. The very crease of your finger goes right over the pillar, and the pillars are cut at like a 90. So, I mean, I'm not sure, I've never tried to spark a ferro rod on aluminum, but I'm pretty sure that you could probably spark a ferro rod. That's how sharp these pillars are. And if you bear down on this knife in any way, that's not going to feel great. And even just grasping it like this, it doesn't feel good. Another hot spot you'll find on the knife is the lock switch. It is very sharp, which is good for actuating the lock and disengaging it, but it is terrible, once again it is terrible when you have to bear down on the knife. That is just going straight into your thumb, and it is sharp. Which, you know, for most EDC tasks, like opening boxes and stuff, it's not going to be a big deal because I actually open boxes like this. And this is actually my favorite position to hold the knife and actuate it. I like to use my middle finger, barely push the thumb stud, it pops out, and then I just put my index on top and cut the tape or whatever I'm cutting like that. So for what I use this knife for at work, it's really no big deal. You'll see this knife offered in a few different variations. The one I have here is the black coated AUS 8 model, and in most cases this knife is extremely overpriced, just like most SOG models. However, I got this one off of Amazon used for around $40. And to me, that was a freaking steal. This is a really good knife for $40. You have an aluminum scales here versus on the Visionary, which is a really good knife, which I got for $60. It's a really good knife, especially for a one-handed opening and closing. But I'm not a big fan of GRN. I'm just not. I went over in that video how much this GRN feels like G10, so that was a plus, but I'm also not really a fan of G10. I really dig metal scales. Another reason why I think this knife is so fast is because the blade stop on the back actually rotates as the blade is engaged. As long as you keep this little barrel spacer lubed up, it should rotate fine and actually help the speed of deployment. All in all, I'm really impressed with the fit and finish of this knife, especially for the $40 price tag that I got it at. But if you're going to pay full retail, I do not think that this knife is worth the full retail, which sometimes you find it for $90, $100, and I think SOG asks over $100 for this knife. If you could find it used below $50, I think it is a steal. Alright, that about wraps it up for my overview of the SOG Zoom. I hope this was helpful to you, and before I go, I want to mention that if you are a nerd like me and you're a fan of the Flash, since this knife's called the Zoom, I have a cover of the song from the Flash TV series Running Home to You on my channel. You can find a link to that in my video.
All I wanna do is come running on you, come running.